Finally, let's get to our starting pitcher preview part 1 next on Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. Welcome into FBT in 5. As always, make sure to follow and stream us on Spotify. Today is Thursday, February 24th. I am Frank Stanfield, joined by Scott White. And Scotty, let's start with your strategy when it comes to starting pitcher. We know that year over year, it's pretty hard to predict. We don't know what kind of ball they're going to play with, sticky substances, all this kind of crazy stuff. What is your strategy in 2022?
Well, I went all in on starting pitcher last year, like never before, and it backfired. It backfired in a pretty major way. Not entirely my fault. They went and changed the ball on me, and I think that's one of two things that contributed to a total landscape change at the position. The ball didn't carry as much. It didn't fly out of the park as easily, and that helped reintroduce a middle class to a position that used to have a large one, but it disappeared because it had become so easy to hit home runs that really you had to blow the ball. Yeah, you had to blow the bat out of a batter's hands to succeed as a pitcher in the league, and only so many pitchers could do that. Middle class is back. And not only that, but I think the upper class has kind of come down a peg too because of the other change, the introduction of the sticky substance ban mid-season. The elite are still elite, but they're elite less often, and they don't stand out quite as much from the crowd as they used to before. And obviously, we don't have a large sample for me to say that, but that was kind of my takeaway from the second half of the season with the sticky ban substance in effect. So I see the hitters, the rounds 1 and 2, the hitters standing out more from the pitchers in that range. And then I go pretty heavy on pitcher after that, after the first 2 rounds.
All right, well, let's take a look at those elite starting pitchers, and we'll start with Gerrit Cole, who has an ADP of 8.6, and Corbin Burnes, your NL Cy Young Award winner, with an ADP of 11.8. Scott, what do you think about Gerrit Cole and Corbin Burnes this upcoming season? Who would you rather have? Do you actually target them?
I don't normally. If Cole was around late in round 1, I'd take him. I feel like he's the only pitcher worth taking in round 1 because the track record is so... It speaks for itself. He's been among the top 2 or 3 pitchers in baseball for several years in a row now, and it's hard to find that consistency at this position. I don't worry about the second half ERA. You know, it was mostly just a handful of starts, partly when the sticky substance ban first went in effect, and partly he had a hamstring injury late. In the middle of that, he looked about as dominant as usual. Burnes was, apart from Jacob deGrom, probably the most dominant pitcher pitch for pitch last year, but he still has, I still don't trust the workload. It's a huge leap in innings beyond what he ever delivered before. And he still, even though he won the Cy Young, he still didn't get quite to an ace workload. So I don't know how he's going to bounce back from the big increase. And I don't know how much more he's capable of taking on.
All right, let's take a look at this next group of 3. They're going in the early to mid second round, and includes Walker Buehler at pick 14, Max Scherzer at pick 18.8, and Brandon Woodruff with an ADP of 20.6. Scott, who is your favorite of this group? Buehler, Scherzer, Woodruff?
I'm going to say Scherzer here. And yeah, he's getting old. He's in his late 30s. And, you know, innings per start went down a little last year. But otherwise, there've been no signs of any sort of decline for him. And I don't worry so much about age at this position anyway. I get that it's a risk factor. At starting pitcher, it's among the lower risk factors for me. There's so many ways a pitcher could go wrong. And if anything, I think age actually works in their favor because they're grandfathered into this old standard of what an ace workload looks like. And obviously, they've shown they can maintain it year after year if they get to be as old as Scherzer. So maybe this is the year he drops off. But again, there are so many other ways that things could go wrong for basically every pitcher.
All right, Scott, I'm going to give you a minute to talk about something you probably need way more than a minute to talk about. But Jacob deGrom with an ADP of 21.4 and Shane Bieber with an ADP of 24.8 both come with quite a bit of injury risk, but also a lot of talent. So how are you handling those two going at the end of round 2 in a 12-team league?
I would take deGrom before Bieber. I'm more likely to take Bieber. because I think deGrom would have to come at a little bit of a discount for me. deGrom had UCL damage. We've come to learn at the end of last season. He wasn't pitching. He had a tear in his UCL. MRIs now say the tear is gone. I'm skeptical. That his elbow is actually okay, that actually healed on its own and won't require surgical intervention. Bieber missed a lot of last season with a shoulder injury, came back, the velocity was down, the spin rate was down, big surprise, it was post-foreign substance ban. I think with normal offseason rest and buildup, he'll be back to normal. He'll figure out how to regain the spin like basically every pitcher did, and he should be ready to take on a big workload again.
All right, great job. You actually did it in less than a minute. So there you go, Scotty. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to the Fantasy Baseball Today podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, your smart speakers, or anywhere else podcasts are found. And thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today in 5. We'll be back again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.